August in Texas, time and place when everyone's thoughts turn to football. From the Dallas Cowboys, here preparing for a new season, down to this group of young men watching from the sidelines. For these guys, August used to mean preparing for football games of their own. Not anymore.
How's it going? I've never met you. I'm Josh.
Now they're all teammates on a different squad, brought together by a common tragic past, with friendships that are closer than most teams.
You know me.
Chris Canales is the president and founder of the Gridiron Heroes. It all started 8 years ago, November 2nd, 2001, on this field outside San Antonio. It was the final game of Chris Canales' senior season, and the All-State punter and defensive back was having the game of his life.
Taken down by Chris Canales.
But then, with only 4 minutes left, Chris made a touchdown-saving tackle. But something went horribly wrong.
I just remember spinning like a 360, and then everything was like slow motion. And then you hit the ground, and you hear your teammates trying to get you up, and can't move.
Did you recognize it right away? You couldn't feel a thing, couldn't move?
I knew something was wrong. I mean, you could, with every hit you make, you could tell this one was different.
Chris had fractured his 5th and 6th vertebrae and severed his spinal cord. Chris almost died twice from pneumonia. When he woke, his parents had to tell him that he'd likely never be able to move anything below his shoulders. So Eddie quit his job to care for his son around the clock. After all of Chris's friends went off to college, with little to do besides physical therapy and doctor's visits, he fell into a deep depression, locking himself in his room for days at a time.
He didn't want to eat, didn't want to go to therapy. He had just reached his 1-year anniversary date of his injury, and I think it finally sunk in that he was going to be in that wheelchair. And so he took a downward spiral.
Hoping to snap Chris out of his funk, Eddie Canales took his son back to the place he'd once loved most, a Texas high school football field. It was a state championship game, and then the unimaginable.
One of the Everman players went down with a spinal cord injury.
This is the first game you've been to since your own injury.
Right.
And another kid on the field gets paralyzed?
Right.
When they put him on the cart to take him off the field, Chris turns to me and said, "Dad, we've got to go help him. I know what he's going to go through. You know what the family's going to go through."
That was your immediate reaction?
Yeah. It just kind of clicked that this is really something we need to do because it does happen again. And so we wanted to go help the best way we knew how, and that was going through our experience.
Yeah, how you doing? Good to see you, my man.
And just like that, Gridiron Heroes was born. A new team for the high school players who each autumn, as reliably as the changing of the leaves, fall on a Texas football field and never walk again. This would not be a charity to raise money for a cure, Eddie and Chris decided. There were enough of those. This would be a grassroots organization to help these boys figure out their new lives. As the years went by and more players were paralyzed, at the alarming rate of 3 a year in Texas alone, the pair drove over 1,000 miles every month, all over this huge state, to counsel new members and check up on old ones. Ironically, football remains the bond between this unique fraternity of brothers, so nearly every weekend of the season, Eddie and Chris take a group of Gridiron Heroes to high school and college football games.
That's a big thing for a lot of our guys, is to get out of the house.
But Gridiron Heroes provides more than just emotional support to these families. They also help out financially. Through fundraisers, Eddie has bought handicap-accessible vans for several families, vans that cost up to $50,000. And remember Faith Stanton and her son David? When their insurance company refused to pay for David's electric wheelchair, even though he was a quadriplegic, Eddie raised the money to get one. Over time, David and Chris became the best of friends. Because they lived only a few miles apart, they went to football games every weekend.
Chris and Eddie, of course, helped me out a lot.
And spread the word about Gridiron Heroes.
And, to that one big dream of walking again, so just all out, just very happy.
I always call him my little brother, and though he was taller, being 6'4", he was always taller, but he was like my little brother.
But in 2008, David Edwards lost a year-long battle with pneumonia. A chilling reminder for the Gridiron Heroes that because of their condition, even very treatable illnesses can be deadly.
That was hard, but I was at peace because I know he's in a better place, and he's walking. So.
He's walking.
Yeah.
Last August in San Antonio at the Cowboys training camp, another football season was on the horizon. And another bittersweet fall awaited the Gridiron Heroes.
Nice to meet you, bud.
While Eddie and Chris were happy to see so many of the families they've been able to help, they'd be even happier if their number could somehow stop growing.
As passionate as you still are for the game of football, there must be some reservation that with fall, there's a good chance comes another injury.
Yeah. We've had 1 year where there wasn't an injury. 1 year out of all these years. And we hope and pray for no injuries again every year. But when it does happen, we're there for them. We're there for them.